Julius Caesar didn't conquer Rome with an army. He conquered it with debt. Because in Rome, the real weapon wasn't the sword, it was money. And here's the terrifying part. The final move Caesar made is the reason he had to die. Julius Caesar is remembered as a military genius, the man who crossed the Rubicon, conquered Gaul, and shattered the Roman Republic. But that story misses the most dangerous thing Caesar ever mastered. Not legions, not politics, money. Because long before Caesar became dictator of Rome, he understood a truth most people still don't. Power doesn't come from the sword alone. It comes from who controls debt, credit, and the flow of money when systems begin to crack. And by the time Rome realized what Caesar was really doing, it was already too late. To understand this, you have to forget the marble statues and battlefield speeches. Late Republic Rome was not a stable empire. It was a debt machine. Wars were financed by borrowing. Elections were won with bribes. Entire political careers were built on loans from the elite banking class, the equites. Senators weren't just lawmakers, they were creditors. And ordinary Romans? They were drowning. Now watch what happens when a society runs on debt. Because the moment the money breaks, everything else follows. By the 1st century BCE, wealth in Rome had become dangerously concentrated. Small farmers were crushed by debt, pushed off their land, and replaced by massive estates owned by elites. Veterans returned from war only to find their farms gone. Grain prices swung wildly. Riots were common. The Republic looked strong on the outside, but economically it was hollow. This is the Rome Caesar stepped into. Unlike many aristocrats, Caesar was born into a respected family, but not a rich one. To rise politically, he borrowed aggressively. By his 30s, he was deeply in debt. But here's the twist. Caesar understood debt as a weapon, not a weakness. He used borrowed money to buy loyalty, fund games, forgive obligations, and bind himself to people personally. Every favor created dependence. Every loan created allegiance. Where others saw financial risk, Caesar saw leverage. And this is where Rome should have panicked. Because the moment Caesar learned how money controls people, he stopped playing politics and started building a machine. Then came Gaul. Caesar's military campaigns weren't just about conquest. They were cash machines. Bourwoody, enslaved populations, seized land, tribute. Wealth flooded into Caesar's control. But instead of funneling it all back to Rome's elite, he used it strategically, paying soldiers directly, settling debts for supporters, rewarding loyalty. He created a private financial network loyal to him, not the Senate. This terrified Rome's financial elite. Why? Because the Senate's real power didn't come from law, it came from credit control. Senators and bankers decided who could borrow, who could rebuild, who could survive politically. And Caesar was bypassing them. But here's the terrifying part. The moment someone breaks the credit system, they don't just gain power, they rewrite the rules. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon in 49 BCE, it wasn't just an act of rebellion, it was an economic declaration of war. The Senate tried to freeze him out. They backed Pompey. They seized assets. They expected Caesar to collapse financially. Instead, he did the unthinkable. He seized the treasury itself. Rome's central funds, accumulated from taxes, war spoils, and provincial extraction, fell into Caesar's hands. And with that single move, the Republic lost its financial independence. Because Caesar didn't just command armies now. He controlled payrolls, debt relief, and grain distribution. This is the moment Rome stopped being a republic, not on a battlefield, but in the books. Once in power, Caesar moved fast. He passed debt reforms that shocked creditors. Interest already paid was deducted from principal. Property values were stabilized. Forced foreclosures slowed. To the elite, this was heresy. To the masses, it was salvation. And then Caesar did something even bigger. He morphed the currency system, minting coins with his own image, not as vanity, but as authority. Because in the ancient world, money wasn't neutral. Whoever appeared on the coin controlled trust itself. Caesar wasn't just ruling Rome, he was embedding himself into every transaction. And this is where it becomes chilling, because when your face is on the money, you don't need votes anymore. Even his assassination proves the point. The men who stabbed Caesar weren't just defending liberty, many were creditors. They feared a world where debt could be forgiven, where the Senate no longer monopolized finance, where the old system couldn't extract endlessly from the population. And yet, killing Caesar didn't restore the Republic, because once money control shifts, it rarely goes back. Augustus inherited Caesar's financial framework. The Republic died not on the Senate floor, but in the books. Rome became an empire because centralized money made it inevitable. And this is the part most history books won't tell you. Caesar didn't win because he was the best general. He won because he understood the real battlefield was financial. Caesar didn't overthrow Rome by force alone. He restructured who money served. He broke the elite monopoly on credit, redirected wealth flows, and made the state dependent on a single authority. That's why he was unstoppable, and that's why he was assassinated. And the pattern didn't end in Rome. Every major political collapse follows the same script. Control the money, and the institutions follow. Lose control of money, and no army can save you. The frightening part? We still live inside this system. Governments fall, leaders change, currencies are rebranded, but financial power remains the real battlefield. Just like in Caesar's Rome, the public argues about politics, while decisions are made in credit markets, debt agreements, and monetary policy. Julius Caesar didn't just conquer Rome, he rewired who money obeyed. He broke the elite monopoly on credit, redirected wealth flows, and made the state dependent on a single authority. That's why he was unstoppable, and that's why he was assassinated. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.